Well, thank you so much for inviting us to speak today. I'm delighted to join you. My name's Emma Matebalavu, and I'm a partner with Clifford Chance. I've been with the firm for quite a long time. I joined back in 1999, and before that, I did my undergrad law degree on course 2 at Oxford, so quite a long time ago. So yes, it's been quite a long journey, but I'm just going to give you a quick overview of the firm, my career path, my time at Oxford, and why course 2 and being an Oxford alum, how that's impacted my career. So Clifford Chance is a global law firm. Probably one of the key reasons I was attracted to the firm initially. So we have a truly global footprint, and we have been one of the first firms to become global quite a long time ago. And now we have a full service offering across the major financial centres in the world. And I think, as times change, we've seen most recently in the context of Brexit, that's really important to us. And we see ourselves as a very well-hedged business, able to withstand all of the regulatory and economic pressures that the world throws at us and support our clients through multiple business cycles. How I fit into that, so I'm a partner in our London office, and I also co-head what we call our global financial markets team in London. So we cover a range of work, mainly dealing with governments, financial institutions, so that's banks, insurance companies, funds, hedge funds, and corporates, of course. And our practice in my area focuses mainly on financing, so debt instruments of all kinds, and bond capital markets. But across the firm, we also have very strong offerings in corporate and litigation and dispute resolution. And then we have lots of other specialist practices which support all of that, including a fantastic real estate practice and tax, employment, pensions. I'm sure I've left something out, so I'll get in trouble. But those are the kind of main areas that we practice in London and across the globe. So I guess looking back to my time at Oxford, I loved languages as a student at school. I spent some time in France and Germany on exchanges when I was at school. And so I was really delighted to be in the cohort, the second year of the course 2, as it was. It had just kicked off back then. And I was lucky enough to spend my third year studying French law in Paris, which was great because it gives you an extra year as a student. So it's great being on a 4-year course. And I also think it helped me in terms of my final year because I was a little bit more mature and a bit more focused on what I wanted to do. And I was lucky enough to do a vacation scheme at Clifford Chance in the summer after my year abroad, I think it was, or might have been the year before. And I spent 2 weeks doing the vacation scheme in the London office, which was a great way to get to know the firm and to understand a little bit about the work of the trainee. So when I went to look for law firms, as I said, I was very drawn to Clifford Chance because it was very international. I also felt it was quite diverse, and that really appealed to me as someone from Northern Ireland who hadn't lived in England prior to coming to university and was very keen to travel and to work abroad. So I think the diversity of the firm and the sort of, Aasha may touch on this, but we always like to say there's not really a Clifford Chance type. There's no mould. We accept everyone as they are, and we really encourage people to be authentic and bring their full selves to work. And I'm someone who likes to say what I think. So that very much appealed to me then and still does today. So when I joined Clifford Chance, I did a training seat. So we have a training program which involves 4 periods of 6 months where you get to move around the firm, work in different departments. And I was fortunate enough to spend one of those 6-month blocks in our Rome office, working on Italian securitizations at the time. And then I qualified back into London, where I've been ever since. And then I became a partner back in the financial crisis. So that's just a little bit about me and the firm. In terms of how being an Oxford alumna has impacted my career, well, I think probably the most important thing is I think in Oxford, life is pretty intense. There's a lot going on. The terms are pretty short, 8 weeks, and they managed to cram an enormous amount into those 8 weeks. And that's quite similar to working at Clifford Chance. So there's a lot going on. There are enormous opportunities. It's a great place to work, and we have fantastic people who are like Oxford, all tremendously bright, highly motivated and massively committed. And so I think that the environment in Oxford serves me very well in terms of my current role. I would also say that I played a lot of sport at Oxford. So I got a hockey blue and a rugby blue. And I think teamwork is another really critical component of being a lawyer, particularly in a law firm like ours. You're always working in teams within your own department, but also on cross-border matters. So very frequently, today, for example, I'm working on a deal with my colleagues in Luxembourg and Frankfurt and Paris. And so being able to work in a team and that kind of camaraderie you get from working really hard and achieving goals together as a team is something that I gained from sport, and I continue to gain in my role at Clifford Chance. I'm not sure how long I've got, Aasha, so I'm happy to stop there, or I'm very, very happy to take questions. So any questions at all, please feel free to ask.
There are a few questions in the Q&A, so
let's have a look. Okay, so some of these Aasha might be able to answer. So the first one, so I'm starting at the bottom. Would you recommend taking French law alongside law, and does it make you stand out to employers? I would recommend it because I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think it's great to understand a different legal system. So obviously, if you study law at Oxford, you will be studying English law, you'll be studying common law. And if you go to Paris, they are a civil law jurisdiction. And so it's very different. And that is obviously helpful when you come to work in an international law firm like ours. It won't make you a French qualified lawyer, but it will give you kind of an understanding of how they work, which is always useful. So I think it's not a requirement, but I personally, if you get the opportunity to do it, I think it's a great opportunity, and I would highly recommend that from my own personal experience. Did you ever feel worried about your chances of finding a job post-law degree? I know it's a very competitive industry and probably quite anxiety-inducing. Yes, it is a very competitive industry at all levels, and I think it's one of the things that you have to contend with when you're at university, is thinking about what you want to do after your degree and applying for jobs. I would say that in Oxford and most universities, that's pretty well structured, and there's lots of advice available. And I also think the law firms, such as ourselves, try and make that as accessible as possible. And Aasha is one of our recruitment specialists, and she can talk a little bit about that. So there's lots of information available, but there is quite a bit of work involved in preparing for those interviews. Did I worry about it? Not really. I think I was having too much of a good time in my first 2 years to worry about it, but I did at some point feel the need to get a job. And so that's when I started to focus in on it. And I think if you prepare well, you'll be fine. How much work experience do you need to have when applying for a job for Clifford Chance? Actually, you might have some thoughts on this, but I think what we would say is all work experience is useful. So you may have some relevant legal work experience, working doing vacation schemes like the one I mentioned, or having some experience in law firms. But also, if you work in McDonald's or if you work in Tesco, whatever you do in your summer holidays is really useful, because you will learn a lot of skills which are important, communication skills, dealing with customers, working under pressure, working as part of a team. Those are all things that are going to be useful for your CV, and it will help you kind of understand the world of work. So I would say, yes, work experience is very useful, but it doesn't have to be necessarily in law, if that helps. Magic circle firms are notorious for being incredibly intense. How is the work-life balance? So I'm happy to take that one, because I've been here for 20 years. Or so, give or take. I also live on a farm, so it's been an interesting lockdown, because my husband and I live on a farm, and I've got 2 teenage kids. It's a really intense job. If you're someone who wants a very 9-to-5 job, then don't apply. I would say we work really hard. We have a very committed team. Our clients can be very demanding, and they're doing very large, very complicated transactions for which they pay us a lot of money, and we also get paid a lot of money. So I think it's really important to be realistic about that. But personally, I've always really enjoyed it. I'm the kind of person who enjoys a challenge, change, variety. I feel like I learn all the time. I'm developing new skills throughout my career, and I'm incredibly lucky to work with really talented and bright, committed people. So it's quite a fun job. But yeah, it can involve a few late nights and weekends, including the one just past. I've had a very busy week. Not always like that, but yeah, funnily enough, it's been very interesting in the lockdown, because obviously many industries are suffering, and many businesses are closed. But we've been incredibly fortunate that we can all work from home. Most of our job is on a computer. It's all emails and documents and conference calls and video calls. And we've been incredibly lucky. We've been able to work throughout in a pretty seamless way. And our business remains very robust, which is great.
Hello, everybody. I'm Aasha Tikoo. I am one of the graduate recruitment managers here at Clifford Chance. My role is primarily to go out and source incredible talent from a whole host of different places. Hence why I'm here talking to you, because you're exactly the type of candidate that I would be talking to. Were we in a physical environment, I'd be out there sort of trying to chat to as many of you as possible. And I can see that in the chat, lots of you are really interested in the types of opportunities that we've got. So I'm going to do a really quick whistle-stop tour through the different types of scheme and program that's available for you to apply to from year 12 and onwards. So as Emma's laid foundations, we are first and foremost a commercial law firm, and we hire undergraduates to join our training contract program, which consists of four 6-month rotational seats in different practice areas across the firm, by which point, by the 4th seat, you should have made a decision or hopefully come to a conclusion as to what type of law you'd like to practice, and then you qualify into that practice. So that's sort of a very broad overview of what the process looks like. Up to that application point, up to applying to training contract, we offer a whole host of different opportunities, schemes, events that you can engage with to help you understand the firm, understand the opportunities, understand the role, the culture, the industry, to ensure that you are making a well-informed decision and to give you all the information that you could possibly need before you take that step to actually applying. So from year 12, we offer an opportunity called our Access Programme. Now, this is actually part of our prime commitment. So it's applicable to those that fall under the category of social mobility. So you need to meet specific criteria to be able to apply for it. But it is open from year 12. It's, as I've said, a 2-year development program, and it starts from bringing you in for a virtual 3 to 4 days within the firm, and we offer you coaching, development programs, access to mentors throughout the whole course of that 2 years, in the hope that by the time you reach your first year of undergraduate, you're ready to apply for our Spark scheme. Now, Spark is our first official vacation scheme opportunity, and that is open to first-year students and second-year students of a 4-year course. And we run that scheme twice a year. Again, it's a 4 to 5 day course, very intense, lots of sessions, lots of learning, lots of engaging with lawyers and trainees, and getting you to understand the culture of the firm. It is an application-based scheme, so you need to prepare for the application process, which involves an application form, an interview. Again, there's plenty of support available from the firm and online, of course, to help you understand those processes and prepare well for those. Spark is really unique in the sense that it can lead you straight to a training contract. So we are looking for people in that first year scheme that are really quite already engaged in the law, hence why we like to start these conversations early. It's important that you have a bit of an understanding as to what a training contract means, what it could lead to, and are able to show us that you have an appetite and understanding for what that means in your application to the Spark programme. Now, all of this information is available on our careers website, which I'm sure Emma's going to circulate, Emma White, that is going to circulate post this session. But Spark is the very first year scheme leading to a training contract that we would really encourage you all to start looking into from now and beginning that preparation process for the application and interview process. So that, as I said, leads to a training contract. It isn't your only way into the firm. The next step there is if you are a penultimate year student or penultimate year law student, that is, or a final year non-law student, you can apply directly for the training contract. And I think it's important to add at this point that we actually recruit both law and non-law students in equal measure. So every year we recruit 50% law students, 50% non-law students. And the reason being, as I'm sure our Emma will agree, is that you don't need to be an expert in the law at the point of that application. You are applying for a training contract. So we are the people that are going to train you. But what we're looking for are those people that have that commercial appetite, that business interest, that client focus, which is where that work experience Emma was talking about in any variety that can come in, that customer service base, and a true understanding of what the role entails. And we know that skill set can be developed in a whole host of different environments, through a whole host of different opportunities and experiences. So the law training bit comes in afterwards, but you do need to show an appetite and understanding for the organisation and the industry in your application and in your interview. So those are the opportunities. Underlying all of that is a whole host of different types of events and learning opportunities that we as a firm offer all students. So in the last year, we've worked really hard at democratizing access to a number of different types of information-rich sessions, which you can find on our events hub on the careers website. So we've pre-recorded a lot of sessions which are sort of panel discussions, law training skill sessions, different skills that you can go onto the events hub, watch these recordings, learn a lot about the culture of the firm, practice essential skills that you need to have to be able to apply. So our events hub is very rich in content, available to all groups and completely accessible to everyone. So we'd highly encourage you go along and visit there. It'll also give you an idea of the types of people that work at our firm. And I think that's really important from a culture perspective, that you're able to go on there, listen to our podcasts from our trainees who are only a couple of years, three or 4 years older than yourselves right now, who are going through the process, who are going through exams. So there are podcasts, videos, skill sessions, an excessive amount of content there for you to draw upon. And we've also in the last 12 months developed our global virtual internships. Now, we no longer offer the summer vacation scheme that Emma attended when in the lead up to her application, but what we have done is and the reason for that is because of the success of our Spark scheme. So that first year scheme has proved so popular and successful that we've taken a choice to sort of reinvest that money into the global virtual internships, which are a set at the moment of 3 programs. There are 2 more in the pipeline at the moment that are soon to be released, but there are 3 virtual internships in there, curated by our own lawyers from across the globe, totally unmarked. So there's no sort of scoring or any kind of assessment, but they're 3 really meaty internships that give you an opportunity to practice trainee type tasks, sort of guided through by our lawyers, but it gives you an idea of the type of work, the type of skills, just a sort of taste of the sort of global international type of work that you would be doing if you were to pursue a career with us. And I would highly recommend you go and have a look at those global virtual internships as part of this sort of upskilling preparation piece before you look at applying to us. So yeah, I know I've talked at you non-stop now. Hopefully there's quite a lot of useful content in there to help you start thinking about the steps to take if you would like to apply to us. I think now I'm going to move to the questions, just to see if I have missed anything. And Emma, please jump in if you think there's anything that I've missed there, but let's have a look.
I've been tapping out some responses while you were talking, Aasha.
Oh,
so
brilliant.
Hopefully I've answered some of the questions for you.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. So I'm going to go with Winnie at the top there, because you've been waiting patiently. But what advice do you have for obtaining a training contract? I just think, get under the, like any job, like anything you ever apply to, understand what the role entails. get a good grounding in sort of, read lots of information. There's so many profiles, trainee stories, so much out there that you can get your hands on. The more you understand about the role, the more you understand about the path, the progression, what it can lead to, the more you'll start to understand about the skill set that you need, the skill set you're probably already developing in your own life at the moment, and you're going to be able to align those in your application with the skill sets that we're looking for. So try and tailor your experience to the skill set required in the training contract, and the only way you're going to know about that is if you obtain that knowledge. So reach out to people, attend all those events, engage with all those podcasts, those videos. It might feel time consuming, but the more knowledge you have, the more powerful and effective your application will be. And also go on, Emma.
I was going to say, so I do a lot of interviewing. So Aasha calls on all the partners and senior lawyers to interview candidates. And two things I would say that people sometimes struggle a little bit with. One is, what does the job involve? So I think very often people don't really understand what trainees do and what lawyers do on a day-to-day basis. So I think ask quite practical questions. Most of what we do involves words, okay? So if you're someone who enjoys reading, is able to assimilate a lot of information quickly, is able to understand things and explain them simply, this is the kind of job you might enjoy. If you're very numerate, it's helpful to be numerate, but many of our clients in financial institutions are the ones who run the numbers and deal with the Excel spreadsheets. We deal primarily in words and contracts, so that's quite important. And I think sort of understanding how deals work, all that kind of thing, as Aasha said, you can pick a lot of that up from podcasts, etc. And then the second area where I think, and Aasha, you correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of people struggle with is this commercial awareness piece. Now, I know that when you're at school and when you're at university, you may not be reading the Financial Times every day. I didn't, I have to confess. But nor should you just read it once the day before your interview. I think you should try to follow current affairs, try to follow what's going on at a macro level. We don't expect you to have a really detailed understanding of what's going on, but I think if the more that you can understand how businesses work, the easier you will find the application process. And to be honest, it gets easier when you start the job, because once you're working on deals and you're working with clients, automatically you're more interested in their business and you get to know more about it. So I think that's something that sometimes people struggle with a little bit. And so I would just say, read what you can and listen to, the Today programme, and be just aware of current affairs as much as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's see if there's another one in there that might cover a few. In terms of hiring candidates for non-law undergraduate courses, the trends, preferences. No, there are no preferences, honestly. It really is about exhibiting that skill set, that drive for what we do. So no, there's no preference as to which degree on the non-law front. Any tips, I think, on commercial awareness? I think Emma's covered that off nicely. I think read it, having BBC News, having it pinging up in your stream every day is really good, so you're staying abreast of what's happening. There are great apps out there like Finimize. There are some, which is an excellent app which just sort of summarizes what's happening commercially in the world. The other thing to bear in mind here is that we are after people who have a real authentic engagement with this stuff. There's no point in just sort of blanket applying and thinking, they might like the sound of me because I think I've kind of got the gist of it. You've got time to prepare between now and that application, whether that be to Spark or to your training contract, to really cultivate and nurture that interest so that you can articulate it well, both in the form and when you get to interview stage. I think we've got maybe 1 more minute to take one more. Emma Oxford. Let's have a look. We don't ask for any personal profile on the CV, so you don't need to worry about that. How important do you think extracurriculars are for your, well, I'll take that to mean your application? It's really important. You'll see when you can go in and have a look at our applications. Actually, they don't open until August. August the 1st is when our applications open, and they close on at the end of December. except for access. They've got slightly different application windows, which you can look at on the website. But yeah, extracurriculars are vital. We really want to understand you. We are not in the habit of hiring sort of robots or a cardboard cutout of Emma's throughout the whole business. We're looking for a real broad range of individual. Anything that can tell us about you that's unique to you is really important. So
yeah. And think about those points that we were discussing when you think about your extracurricular activities. So leadership skills, working in teams, communicating, and also I think what it shows is an ability to balance. So the questions about work-life balance, work is going to be a very important part of your life, but it is important to be able to achieve a balance, and normally that comes from you and your ability to organize your time. So if you're able to meet the competing demands of the Oxford essays, which are due every week, and participate in lots of other activities which you commit to, then that shows us that you might be able to juggle the kind of demands on your time that you have when you're working in a busy practice like ours.